All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a documentary-style dossier on one of the most massive, absolutely crucial shifts happening in our global market right now, the dual transition. We're going to explore exactly how global governments are actively legislating the end of the linear economy. They're basically using policy as the ultimate driver to force a shift toward a digitally enhanced, circular future. Okay, let's dive into this. For over a century, we've relied on a linear economy. You know the drill. Take, make, dispose. It's a unidirectional model that essentially treats the world like there's no tomorrow. And frankly, it's caused some severe ecological failures. But thankfully, that's rapidly being replaced by the circular economy. We're talking about restorative loops of reducing, reusing, and recycling. It's all about treating a product's end of life not as garbage, but as the raw material for the very next cycle. Here is our zoom-in policy funnel for today. We'll start with the end of the linear economy, then look at the instruments of the circular shift. From there, we descend from those macro-level global tools right into highly specific, concrete case studies, national legislation, city-level innovation, and finally, our collaborative global future.
So, Section 1, the end of the linear economy, the devastation of take, make, dispose.
Well, to understand why governments are urgently stepping in, we have to look at the structural failure of ignoring a product's end of life. Think about this number for a second, 91.4%. That represents our massive global circularity gap. It means right now only 8.6% of global economic activity is actually circular. So over 90% of what we extract from nature simply becomes waste. It doesn't circulate back at all. Between 2015 and 2021 alone, the global economy consumed 500 billion tons of virgin materials. We are literally consuming 70% more than the Earth can safely replenish. The linear model is pushing us toward an ecological catastrophe, which makes government intervention not just a good idea, but the only viable path forward.
Moving on to Section 2, instruments of the circular shift, the levers of power.
So the crucial point is that because the free market hasn't corrected this massive waste on its own, governing bodies are acting as vital facilitators. They're pulling three primary levers of power to force this transition. Step 1, regulatory frameworks. These are the strict rules that directly penalize or outright ban linear practices. Step 2, action plans. These are comprehensive, collaborative roadmaps guiding industries towards sustainable goals. And Step 3, financial instruments. This is where they direct funds, subsidies, and budgetary support to really incentivize sustainable competitiveness. Together, these three tools are completely rewriting the rules of global business.
Section 3, national-level legislation working, inspiring blueprints.
Now let's zoom in to the national level of our dossier to prove that these sweeping macro-level legislative tools actually yield hard, impressive data. Take this 90% capture rate. No way, right? But it's true. Finland and Estonia have implemented these incredibly smart, digitally enhanced national deposit return schemes. By leveraging technology and getting stakeholders to collaborate, these specific schemes successfully collect an astounding 90% of plastic and 86% of glass placed on the market. That is a massive amount of material captured and kept right there in the restorative loop, rather than just sitting in a landfill forever.
And check out what's happening in Greece. They are using strict regulatory frameworks to force a drastic reduction in waste. Compared to a 2022 baseline, their legislation targets a 30% reduction in single-use beverage cups and food containers by 2024, and that plummets to a massive 60% reduction by 2026. This is direct, top-down policy practically erasing a huge source of linear waste in less than half a decade.
Down to Section 4, city-level localized innovation, agility in action.
Let's zoom in even further. Cities are the absolute largest centers of emissions and resource consumption, which means they must be the agile engines of the circular shift. Now, what's really interesting about this is how we see two entirely different yet equally effective municipal strategies. Over in Amsterdam, their sharing economy action plan creatively utilizes underused assets. Think buildings, vehicles, even talent, maximizing their value. Then, over in Austin, their materials marketplace is designed to hit zero waste by 2040. Austin is actively building local value chains by turning one business's waste into another business's raw material. Both cities are completely redefining urban resource management.
Finally, Section 5, the collaborative global future, the ecosystem effect.
Let's zoom back out to the macro level. And this brilliantly illustrates how these local and national blueprints spur something called the ecosystem effect.
When a nation or region adopts strict circular policies, it intrinsically forces less proactive nations to adopt conforming circular strategies just to stay legally compliant and economically competitive. It promotes cross-industry collaboration, strengthens regional knowledge bases, and creates a domino effect driving us towards stakeholder capitalism and a much more resilient, interconnected global economy.
I want to take a quick second to reflect on this incredibly powerful quote from Walter Stauffer back in 2014. The goods of today are the resources of tomorrow at yesterday's prices. It perfectly summarizes the inherent economic logic and raw value capture of keeping resources in a continuous loop. It's not just an environmental must-have, it's a profound economic advantage. It protects businesses from the wild price volatility of raw materials and captures incredible value that the linear economy, well, simply throws in the trash.
So, what does this all mean for us? We've explored the massive global gap, the national mandates in places like Finland and Greece, and the localized agility of Amsterdam and Austin. Now I'm turning this directly over to you. What policy initiatives, regulatory frameworks, or action plans is your own local government taking to build the circular future? The dual transition requires every single one of us to be engaged. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I challenge you to go investigate your own local legislation and uncover how this transition is manifesting right in your own backyard.